hold towards each other. Like, we just don't have a sense of unity at all anymore. Like, when black men hear a lot of black men hear um, negative things about black women or people talking about black women, they don't even feel offended anymore. A lot of them jump in and start talking about them too. And then black women, the same thing. When a lot of black women hear people talking down on black men, we're not offended by that. A lot of us jump in and start talking about them too. If we ain't the ones who started the conversation talking about each other. Like, it's just so sad. We're so lost. And I don't even, and like, I don't even know if we can come back. Are we too far gone to come back? Like, we have no empathy towards each other anymore. Like, we have no sense of having each other's back anymore. Everybody is like, well, they ain't got nothing to do with me. They don't represent me. They don't. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. When I step out of my house, I'm representing women, I'm representing black women, and I'm representing black people. I can't separate myself from those groups. Like, it's so sad to me because my heart is still there, loving my people, loving my brothers, loving my sisters. But I feel like I'm starting to be on the island all alone with that because we just don't love or like each other anymore. And it's so sad. It's so sad. And it's also embarrassing because people are looking in on the outside at our and they also are becoming comfortable with jumping in and talking about us too, and nobody checks it. Nobody checks it.
What's going on, YouTube? This is Rochelle Tannen. It's January 10th, 2023. It's 11:20 p.m. on the East Coast. And let me just start out by saying thank you to all the new subscribers. You guys are making my day. And I also wanted to give you guys a big apology. I can be very scatterbrained. I read a comment about I got lost someone in something I was saying, and I apologize for that because my mind's always going. Sometimes I wake up out of my sleep. My mind doesn't stop. And sometimes I'm scatterbrained. But as I develop this channel into this year, I promise I'll get better. But let's get to the subject today. And I'm not hating on this young lady. The young lady at the beginning of the clip I came across on YouTube, and she's asking the question, is the Black community too far gone? I found this to be interesting because I've asked that question, and I've also been asked that question here in Philadelphia many times. And I'll put it in the words that I've said to many people. It pains me as a 1980 baby to say this, but the things I grew up on and the traditions and values I knew and know, a lot of that shit's dead. A lot of it's dead or dying. She said a few interesting things in this video. One of the interesting things she said that caught my ear is how Black people, Negroes of this country, men and the women, have dogged each other so much in the last few decades, and especially since social media, that other ethnicities are to a place where they feel they can talk about Black men or women, and Black men and women don't even defend the other sex. And she's 100% right. Tonight, I walked to a bodega. I don't like bodegas. I haven't liked bodegas since back in the day because Dominicans have taken over bodegas. And Dominicans can be very underhanded business people. And they overcharge Black people and all that good stuff. At this particular bodega, there are younger Black men, maybe in their 20s, early 30s, that hang out in this store all day slinging. That's all they do. That's all they want to do. I walked into the store after work around 6:30 tonight, and there was a group of young women, young teenage girls actually, maybe between 14, 16, 17. I don't know if they were getting ready to fight. I don't know what they were doing. But one of the Dominican men stuck his head out the door of his store and said, y'all can come beat this DICK. The black men start chumming with them and, oh, he's sick and bro's this and that and the third. Not one of them black men said, and these were teenage girls. Not one of them black men in that store said, yo, those are little girls. Don't say that shit. Now, mind you, a lot of these black people here in Philadelphia, because Philly is one of the oldest cities in this country, have been here for generations. Generations. I'm in a historically black neighborhood. And you wouldn't know it because none of the commerce is owned by black people. None of it. Not one of these brothers stepped in and said a word. I had another experience last weekend. Again, in the hood, there's no black owned stores, or very few, if any. I went to another store and it was a Turkish or Indian or some type of Middle Eastern Muslim guy who tried to overcharge me. When I said something about it, he tried to laugh it off like he didn't understand English playing that game. And I asked him, well, is this the black tax? Because what I was going for is a certain price at all the stores. And the black guy comes in, oh babe, I've been coming here since they were first open. This and that. Little does this guy know, so had I. I only stop at this store when I'm working on the weekends. And like I told him, black man, you should be standing with me, not against me. And he kept calling me baby, so I had to do a Michelle Pfeiffer on him from Scarface. Don't call me baby. I'm not your baby. Shout out to Scarface, which is 40 years old this year. Crazy. 1983. Shout out to you. Scarface is on Tubi, and if you haven't seen it, you need to. But it's things like that. And black people don't seem to understand a few things. We're a small group of people. We're in a race, and we're running out of time. And I don't care if you're Jay-Z, Oprah, Bill Johnson, whatever, the richest black person you can think of, you're in it. She has said something that was interesting as well when she says that there's a lot of black people, and this tends to be these bourgeoisie wannabe niggas that want to disassociate themselves from blacks. They don't represent me. I'm not one of them. This and that. Like she said, and I've said this, yes, you are. I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't care who you are, because there's not one viable economic powerhouse that is a black community in this entire country. In this entire country. So I don't care, your celebrity, you're still in it. You're still in it. I live in a neighborhood where all the breakfast eateries are ran by Asian people. They'll let black people cook traditional black foods. And they'll even let some of the neighborhood women work their counters. But they never let them touch that cash register, which is a slap in the face all its own. Every dollar going in that goddamn cash register in that drawer is a black dollar. And black women act like ain't nothing going on. Black men act like this shit isn't important. Too busy trying to live their rapper, model, fashion designer, wannabe fucking dreams instead of doing like the people before us and keeping the money in the neighborhood. They don't see the importance of that. See, black people seem to think they got all the time in the world. As Dr. Claude Anderson said, it's called race for a reason. We're in a fucking race and we're losing. Family. I've been saying since my 20s, when I was partying in the streets and doing my things in the streets, I said back then, almost 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, I will never be anyone's baby mama. And fathers are important and marriage is important. I knew that when I was a young woman. A lot of these black kids walking around today will never experience a two-parent household. And I've debated, I don't do it as much. I've debated with black people over the years, but I don't do that shit no more. Because I know a lot of these black kids are finished. And it's not by their doing, it's by the people that came before them. Because before all of this, welfare was a nail in the coffin. Welfare as we know it from the 60s on. Black women of that time and black men made a big mistake selling out the father out the house. And black man, you made a mistake of accepting it. Because let's be clear about modern day black men. Let's be clear. They love welfare. They love EBT. They love staying in their girlfriend's Section 8 apartment. They love all that shit. See, which is vastly different from my father's generation of men. Not just my dad. I think of some of my uncles on both sides. It was one thing back in the 80s for my aunts or my mother to be a ghetto snob and buy food stamps or work the system, but the men, my father and the men, you wouldn't catch them dead with a fucking EBT card. And I'll take it a step further. Even some of my cousins, the sons of this particular uncle I'm thinking of, my father didn't have any sons. You wouldn't catch them dead with a fucking EBT card. And these same black men walk around like ain't nothing going on, like it's normal. It's not fucking normal. No more normal than it is to not marry your women and have two parent households. All the other races seem to get it largely, except black people. And you would think with our background and our history, family would be the most important thing. Fuck some money. Family would be the most important thing. For all the bullshit I've heard, oh, the slave, when we were slaves, they broke up our family. That's where it came from. That's bullshit. Because my grandmothers were married. And again, these were Jim Crow women. My aunts were married for a long time. I have an aunt and uncle down in North Carolina. Them people been married for almost 50 years, if not over 50 years. I referenced them in my Kevin Samuels video. See, a lot of these internet niggas got these niggas head spent out here. No, a high value man keeps his word, keeps his family. He goes out into the world and goes to get a dollar every day. He makes sure his babies have insurance. He doesn't need a white man or a court to tell him to come take care of your babies. Fuck, a lot of black men don't even sign for their babies. See, a lot of black men these days, with their jealous woman-like selves, will come at me and say, oh, you're just mad because you don't have a man. You're just mad this and that and the other. A few things. Whoever said a lot of you niggas were men? Whoever said a lot of you niggas was men at all? In some ways, I guess I had to sit back and think about masculinity. I am more masculine because I had a father. And a lot of you brothers are soft with a capital T on the end. Most of you men, you'll brag about or talk to a woman like myself. Oh, you ain't got a man. Bitch, nigga, the government is your children's father, not you. A good majority, you're so far gone. Again, you don't sign for your own kids on their birth certificates. Do you know how immoral that is? Do you know how disgusting that is? And black woman, you ain't no better. And no, nothing is all, but with black people, this is noticeable in everyday society. You're worried about wearing some rainbow bright, fruity pebbles, fucking crazy colors on your head in your 30s and 40s, looking a fucking fool, and even your late 20s. Paying these Asian women millions of dollars, Brazilian women every year, billions actually of dollars for their sacrificed hair while they sit back and laugh at you. And you can't even, Madam CJ Walker is done an Olympic routine in her grave, a Simone Biles, the flying squirrel in her grave. Madam CJ Walker was the first black woman millionaire of this country. Not only was she a millionaire, she made other black women millionaires off her hair care innovations. Now, 100 years later, we can't even open a hair care store in our neighborhood from California to New York City. And black women walk around like twerking and BBLs and all this other nonsense makes any difference. It doesn't. It doesn't. And black woman, let's talk about how you've messed up the black family by having 6 or 7 baby daddies. As a 1980 kid, it pains me that a lot of these young people now, and in the preceding decades, since certainly in my lifetime, it's gotten worse. They'll never experience a 2-parent household, and that's not fair. That's not fair. 70s, 80s, 90s people, that's not fair. Now, I understand relationships happen and things don't work out, but that's not what I'm talking about. A lot of you black people, for all you're talking about slaves and high value and this and that, you don't even see the wealth in having a 2-parent household. Oh, I take that back. Unless it's on Instagram or TikTok and it's for a flick. Much like how a lot of you parent your kids. A lot of black people, you don't understand the importance of school. Really understand it. And because I am sick of hearing, oh, my kids are in college. My kids went to college. No. A lot of black kids that go to college, they're ill prepared because the schools in their communities are ill preparing them. Because when you don't have families, you don't have as a high tax bracket. And black kids have become so off the hook, a lot of people don't want to teach them. I've said this before. I've been told I don't want to teach in these schools when I was entering my 30s. And that really crushed me because these are little black kids. These are little black kids. I'm being told by another black person, you don't want to teach them. That's very sad. You know, black people are good for talking about what other ethnicities and things are doing. And some things go back so far with black people. Black people want to play this game, but behind closed doors to this day, if you're well spoken, if you don't get caught up in the BS, they'll still call you white behind closed doors. They'll still call that kid, these people's kids will call the kid in school that does his homework or her homework white. So you damn there got to send your black kid to school with mostly white kids, Asian kids, because they take education more seriously. And I can prove this because a lot of black kids, when they get to higher education, they flunk out of school. And now I understand because I went to a few schools, but when I stopped school, I was having issues because that crack era I referenced, or I will reference, that affected my family too. My family isn't what it used to be. But I've witnessed black kids in college classrooms that could barely fucking read. Literally. I've helped young black women at one particular school I'm thinking of. This young lady could barely read. And I'll tell you what, white parents, Asian parents, and a lot of the Hispanic parents, especially depending on the country, they're going to be at that school for PTA, not to beat up the fucking teacher. Like a lot of you niggas. The kid goes to school all year and the teacher ain't met you once. Especially you, mom. Because I'm not even gonna lie. My dad went to some PTAs, but that was mostly my mother's job. That was mostly my mother's job. But someone was at that goddamn school. And you could cut up if you fucking want to. You know what? As I said, some things go back far with black people in this whole white thing and education thing. The way my older sister and I came to go to private school, we went to an all black school. When I was in kindergarten, my older sister was in first grade. A black kid, and this was back in 85, a black kid had spat on my sister. And the black principal told my dad, if you don't like it, take your girls out of this school. And my dad did just that. See, that's the power of having a dad. That's the power of having a father. Real fathers that come home to their families and things, they make shit happen. When I talk shit up on this channel, I think of my grandfathers, a lot of my uncles, some have since passed that I adored. I had really good uncles looking back on it. They were men's men. I ain't never seen none of my uncles with no EBT card, except one, but he's schizophrenic. And he doesn't even control his money. My aunt does, the one who's been married for 50 years. But that's an exception. But when he was in his right mind, you will not catch my fucking uncles or dad or granddads with a motherfucking EBT card talking some shit. My grandfathers worked. My father worked. They weren't in their 30s and 40s talking about they a goddamn rapper acting like ain't nothing going on. Especially with this community being in the shape it's in. And it's worse than it was when my parents were young. Much worse. This young lady who was talking about going back, black people, you know, back in the day when I was a kid, there used to be Sunday dinners where you got together with your grandparents, your family, extended family, your cousins. You sat down, talked to each other. You loved each other. That doesn't happen anymore. Family reunions. Back in the 80s, my grandparents, or my mom's family particularly, there was always a reunion down there in Carolina every year. Not no more. Not no more. That shit's not happening. And I don't see how it can happen because we've gotten to a point in the black community. Our grandmothers are 32, 33, 34, 35. Grandfathers too. Who's passing down any traditions? Who's passing down any traditions? And black people have forgot that's important. Just like they forgot the commerce of their neighborhoods are important. And black people like me, it's gotten to the point it's almost, what's the point? Black people like myself, we get beat up more than y'all beat up on these Dominicans that are raping your neighborhood, these Asians, these Arabs that are usurping your kids' college funds for some now laters and some rapper chips. And y'all don't seem to mind. And the older blacks ain't no better because the baby boomers, a lot of them are crack addicts. I don't care they're in their 60s. Some of them are pushing 70. They're crack addicts. And the baby boomers, I'm in a situation now. My landlord's a young guy. He hires, quote unquote, a lot of drug addicts that are considerably older than him. And they let him think he's oh so smart and stuff. But what he doesn't understand at 21, 22, you're their next get high. The older people are supposed to be leading these young people like a lot of the baby boomers, their elders led them. A lot of the baby boomers, a lot of black baby boomers stole a lot of generational wealth. When they're running around here blaming the white man and all this, that ain't it. They stole a lot of wealth from their children and grandchildren because they had habits. It happened in my family. Both my grandparents were homeowners. My father's parents, every couple years, my grandmother got a new car. My grandmother was fly, both grandmothers. But my grandmother on my father's side and my grandfather, they worked very hard. My other grandparents too. My mother's parents, their house burned out in a fire because one of their sons was smoking crack. My uncle, that my father's brother, he's a fucking lawyer. My sisters and I, we ain't the first ones to graduate from college in our family. We ain't one of those. My uncle went to Wesleyan, had a law degree, fell victim to crack cocaine. And not only did these people take from their children, they took from their parents. Both my grandparents died without the fortunes that they had built up in their life because of their kids. This is what's happening in the black community. And these same people that were young in the 80s, because we're all young once, now they're becoming the senior citizens. And they're still messed up because they will not admit their faults. They will not, as older people, they have an obligation to admit faults so this communities can start to heal. Over the weekend when I was working, I met a young black girl and a young black boy. They were so adorable. Say what you will, but there's a lot of cute kids here in Philadelphia and they're so lively. Philadelphia kids have an essence unlike any other place I've ever seen. And I smile because they're very, they could be such good kids. I went to get dinner when I worked on Sunday night. It was fairly late. So I go to this place and this little girl and I struck up a conversation. She was waiting for her brother's food, who her brother was annoying her. And I could tell this girl was about 15, 16, but she was a beautiful chocolate, cute little teenager. And now that I'm 42, I've wanted to pinch her cheeks, guys. If I'm being honest, she had these big fat cheeks. So we're talking and it's her and her brother. And there's another young girl at the table. I said, "Oh, is that your sister?" And she said, "No, that's my girlfriend." I looked at her and I remember I try to be sensitive to people's backgrounds and upbringings. What I said to this young lady is something my father used to say. I told her, keep your head in the books and out of relationships. You have your whole life to be an adult after 18. 18 and under, stay a kid as long as you can. And she gave me this look and she had beautiful eyes as well. And I could tell by the look on her face, no one's ever told her that. See, that's where women my age and around my age, y'all are fucking failures. You're fucking failures. No 16-year-old girl should be so experienced that she has a fucking girlfriend. She shouldn't be that experienced to say it comfortably to a stranger. I was in a bodega, the same bodega, uh, the other day. And it's not that I like bodegas. They're saturated. I work from home. Once in a while, I have to go grab things. So fine. There's a young man that's in this bodega every day slinging every day. He's there from when they open till they close. There's a woman in the neighborhood he knows, and they were talking, and I overheard her say, well, and this woman was my age, around my age. She was talking about a young girl that got caught screwing in the street or something. So she says, oh, my daughter, I allow her to have her boyfriend in the house. I'm not condoning it, but if she gonna be effing, I'd rather her be in the house. Have you bitches lost your minds? It's bad enough a lot of these kids don't have their fathers, but you accelerate them being adults. And it wasn't like that years ago. It was not like that years ago. It wasn't like that years ago. So it pains me to say there's never going to be no going back. Crack, rap, weed, weave, and weed, and greed has all but ruined the Black community. And we're so worn down, far as unity and things are concerned. I think that died in the crack era as well. The Black Panthers became the drug dealers of the 80s and 90s. You know, Black people became so greedy and addicted to money and drugs and lustful sex, having kids, all these things. Their priorities got skewed. I think things could get better, but they'll never be the same. Some of these Black kids will never have a two-parent household. The fact that we even debate the importance of is so ignorant and asinine. Me personally, I'll never have kids out of wedlock. I've accepted that a long time ago. If I have to die single and childless, I'll take that over being anybody's baby mama. That's not happening. I'd rather die with my name on me and my dad's name on me and his name on my birth certificate. At least I know a man cared about me that much in my life. But what I won't do is bring up a kid and end up resenting it and not guiding it and not having a man to be a woman too. Because high value people and all that stuff you guys love, they have morals, values, and it's not all about money. One of the reasons Black community will never go back to what it was, because the people that came before us, they appreciated the finer things in life. Old people, community, family, rearing children, making sure their children were well-spoken, well-dressed, clean, pressed. A lot of Black people don't get that these days. I've seen women my age, you 42, 43 years old, and your outfit's 21. Grow the fuck up. Grow up. Or don't. Same thing with you 40-year-old rappers, all you Darrell Brooks out there. You too. Or don't. Because you're going to get it in the 2030s. You're going to wish you could go back in the 2030s because these little people, the rest of Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming up, the way you guys chose to raise them, I hope you do love your kids because they're going to be with you a very long time. They're not going to be able to function. But on that note, guys, I didn't want this video to run that long. I'm not hating on that beautiful young lady. She's a looker. I'm going to come back and do another video. Guys, you have a good night. It's Rochelle Tannen. I'm out.